Uh, Someone give me a diaper, because I'm about to shit on myself this whole episode. I'm kidding. I'm a half glass full of diarrhea, ready to pour on someone's head. That's a kind of a disturbing thought. It's a morbid. I've been really into listening to people's. I'm not really a true crime kind of guy. I'm not really someone that's into, stories of murder or hurting people. Because, I'm someone I like to give more of a pat on the back, no matter which way the funnel cake turns. Because sometimes it's a little stale. Speaking of stale and crusty stuff, got a little extra skin on me these days. Yeah. Putting on some LBs, some fatty acids. It's a good thing, It means I'm actually eating, taking care of myself. But yeah, diaper dandy. But yeah, welcome to episode 307 of the Off and Be podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, most important ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to suck some titties. That will be all time. I'll be 98 years old, whether I'm doing this show or not. I'll be going around, kids coming around to the house, have some horses. Not even a big fan of horses. I've never even really loved the smell of horses. I once had a grandmother that had horses. And I don't know why someone would want to live on a farm or a ranch where you have to smell horse shit all day. Because that manure, let's just say, was pure manure. Nothing like an above ground pool next to some horse manure. Luckily, it never got in there, because that would be a sight to see. But even though, I'll admit, I think I've shitted in a bathtub before. So that would be like if the horse ever got in an above ground pool. That's the equivalent of like, I don't know, a 7-year-old boy shitting in a bathtub. Seems like a normal place. Like, if you're a horse and you see an above ground pool, it's got pine straw in it. No one's been in it. It's like November. You haven't seen anyone go in that bitch for 3.5 months. And besides, there were nasty ass people going in there. They don't clean that shit. More likely, you're probably like, let me come over here, take a nice piss and shit. Or he goes to Arby's and gets some Horsey sauce. Now that I think about it, let me break this down. At Arby's, is the Horsey sauce really a symbolism of horse jizz? That's why it's got a little tang to it. Not that I would know what jizz tastes like. Well, at least male jizz. Or horse smell jizz. Even though apparently it is good for your tongue. Gosh, the things us men will convince the ladies. Sweetie, it's good for your it's good for recovery, It's like, I had a real tough leg day. I know some, science has proven that nice old-fashioned semen will make you recover 25% faster. And you're like, really? You're like, yeah, if you always just say, hey, sweetie, there's a study, there's some science facts, you can get away with a lot of things out here. But yeah, it's been a long minute. About I think it was like 3.5 weeks since the last time I posted an episode. As long as hiatus I've taken. Wasn't a purposeful hiatus, just very busy man here. But don't worry. I'm about to have more free time. It's kind of alluding to something, It's change is a weird thing, Not to go on a soapbox here, but as Drake would say, I'm on my soap opera, like because you're all my children. Or he says something like that. Basically saying, all you young rappers are really all my children. Get off your soapbox. And then Roddy Ricch is performing The Box on the lot in front of a whole crowd. It's always weird when you look out to the crowd and like 50% of them are white. And then they're all singing aloud to certain aspects of certain songs that you're like, yep, this is America. But yeah. But yeah, you know, as J. Cole would say, my intuition is telling me there'll be better days. Change. It's one of his most underrated songs, by the way. J. Cole's kind of fallen off. Not like he's not doing good. Not making, you know, a pun based off the fall off. But literally, like, it's weird how just, like, people just completely make different music that's just uninspired. Like, it's weird because, like, I know this is completely going all over the place, but Keith Urban, right? I'm not the biggest Keith Urban fan, but he has some songs. He's Australian, by the way. He has the same hairstyle for the past 25 years, which is insane within itself. But you go to like his early singles, you know, where they were hungry in the early 2000s. It's like this pure like pettiness. There's this like real feeling to it. And then now it's just harmless, no attachment feeling, just easy listening music, but supposed to make you feel good, but there's no real substance to it, right? And I think that's I think that's why a lot of artists have kind of expiration dates of their substance. Like, stuff changes over time, their life changes, they don't have the same issues. So like they don't have the same like real life issues that make that desire for creativity to get in the way of it. That kind of brings the best out of it. And, you know, for me personally, I think sometimes we get to points in our life where we've ignored. You can't say you're a intuitive person and then ignore what you are feeling for an extended period of time. Right? Like, you know, when there is just, it is time that you cannot deny what you feel anymore. Now, sometimes you got responsibilities. You got to do what you got to do, but there comes a point where doing X, Y, and Z gets in the way of you being a responsible human being, if that makes sense. Because you always have a responsibility to yourself to maintain the things that make you unique. The things that make you, that's going to make you the person you want to be a year from now. And I've been living in this, I'm doing X, Y, and Z so the next 2 months can be this. I'm doing X, Y, and Z so in 3 months this. And it's just like been this month-to-month living for quite a while now. Not like paycheck to paycheck. It's not about money. It's literally about you were doing things just to make the next week or two easier, but you're prolonging a bigger issue of yourself. A lack of admission. Kind of like Lori Loughlin and her kids. Lack of admission of, you know, credibility. Still getting these jokes, except I do have a full house. A full house of silence and rain outside. And cat litter. Yep, lots of cat litter. But yeah, and mold. I'm kidding. I clean. But I will mold your imagination. In your imagination. But yeah, I do got the golden ticket though, baby. It's a golden ticket of dreams that may or may not be fulfilled. But yeah, it's a change that is an inevitable part of life. And sometimes you got to sacrifice something for a little while because you know going down a certain road, you may get that thing that you're looking for, but there's going to be a trade-off where that trade-off is not conducive to your values. And sometimes when we are so in a straight line to get X, Y, and Z, we sometimes ignore we use the term sacrifice of ourselves. And we sacrifice our values. We become a person that we are not happy about. And people around us in our everyday lives feed off of that. You become a person where you go from being a person where you inspire people in your life, and now you're one of those people where it's, damn, what's wrong with this person? They always look unhappy. They're always unbearable. They're irritable. They always look like they don't want to be here, type of thing. You're not really present. And it's your responsibility to take that control of yourself to where you are present. Because, this is going to sound like I'm one of those weirdos that's been going down a rabbit hole and I'm making a rash decision in my life. And maybe I am. This whole simulation thing, I don't know. I'm sure there are thousands of simulations of these worlds that we're all living in, different versions of ourselves. And, whether it's true or not, the reality is your reference point for what you contend to be a success in your life or your happiness. It's all about your reference point of whatever this simulation you're living in, let's just say. And I was kind of listening to some earlier where your happiness is really, of what you deem to be success, is really just your reference point. And they use the example of, if you come from a family of lawyers and attorneys, going to community college and getting a regular paying job is not going to be deemed as success, right? Because your reference point is something a little bit higher than that. Let's say your reference point is more of a humble beginnings, where you come from 2-parent household, 2 parents had to work, had mom who took care of kids and had side hustles, stuff like that. Your reference point is a lot just like, you're a lot more just happier if you're doing just a little bit better than your parents were doing, or if you're just doing pretty decent. Like, typically they're proud of you. They're just typically more happy about regular things in life and like, you know what? My kids are doing well. Things are great. So your reference point, you could have the same life as someone else, but their reference point of happiness and approval is different from yours. And it works to your advantage and also works to your disadvantage, because you can become content of just being good, quote unquote. And you may not have a desire to really have that edge to want more, And that's a dangerous place to be in, but it's also, you may be in a more steady place, a level-headed place, because there's nothing wrong with that. I think I am not someone. I work really hard in my life. Everything I do, I put a lot of time and value and diligence. So when I start veering away from things that I know make me happy and enjoy, I have to take a step back, reevaluate my life, and either get things back in order or have to make decisions to cut out things. I think we've all been there where we have to make tough decisions. And I've been feeling suffocated. Not a person that I am proud to be, because I have veered from what makes me happy, what my values are. The extent I have veered away from my values in the hopes of quote unquote sacrifice in quotes. This is where we use the word sacrifice, because sacrifice is a necessity for a lot of things. You have to sacrifice something to get, but sacrifice comes from a very, when you think of sacrifice, you think of like, Jesus sacrificed himself. Like, it comes from a very strong religious tone where it's almost like if you're not sacrificing, you're not really giving back to humanity. And I feel like that's kind of where we've come to a bigger issue, is we are sacrificing so much that we rationalize a lot of shit. We have become accustomed to just sacrifice. And everyone has to sacrifice, right? But sacrifice is not an excuse to just ignore what is not intuitively feeling right. Now, going back to the simulation. The only simulation I know is I used to simulate like 4 seasons of NBA 2K in one day, you know. I was more into the architect of structuring and creating things without actually playing, you know. I like doing the rosters, the offseason trades, the drafts. You get the year like 2035 of MLB The Show, you know. None of these players exist anymore. You developed a minor league player from being a single A to all of a sudden they're like a 98 overall and you hit 400 home runs in a season. You know, the point is I am to a point where you may notice a lot of change. And I don't like to speak about everything I'm about to do before I do them. I'm really not. But it's going to be pretty damn obvious because I have neglected a lot of things in my life for quite a period of time. And people in my life close have suffered from it. And in effect, I'm going to be more committed to this show than ever before. And it's going to be actually the best thing. I feel so free. You know, I feel like I'll be honest. I used to not be like a big believer of like your dreams tell you things. But sometimes when you have become so wrapped up in something and you start dreaming about something and you start having dreams that are literally directed in the environment of the place you are in all day, and I had an epiphany. I'm just going to be slightly open but not give the whole situation away. My energy, like literal sleep, everything has been shit due to circumstances, not get too much detail. And I had a dream last night that really like switch it up. Like, some shit's been going wrong for a long time, but you have a dream and you wake up and you just feel so unsettled because something about it was like you couldn't even try to be like, oh, there was a time and place, there was some foreshadowing, you're piecing some bullshit together. Like, no, it was pretty much like, hey, this keeps on happening, you're gonna collapse, literally pass out, bust your head open, and you're going to die. That's what happened in this dream. And it happened in an environment that I am in all day, every day. And that was a moment where it was like, whether you're a believer in spirituality, whether you're a believer in a messenger of an angel or demon, whatever it is, if you are someone that very observant, if you are someone that trusts your intuitive feeling about things, God, I sound so gay right now, but if you trust your intuitive feelings about things, you cannot deny it at a certain point and just say, I'm just sacrificing for something bigger. Because at a certain point, all that sacrifice is going to completely be for no reason if you are not available to continue sacrificing something, if that makes sense. So there's something about where it is taking piece. It's like something's chipping away at your body every day. It's like a great big pyramid scheme, you know. And I had this dream, and if you ever wake from a dream that was so unsettling, and it literally just made you so frazzled you couldn't even get out of bed because there's something too real about it, right? I had that dream that I busted my head open because of lack of sleep, lack of paying attention, not being myself, not being full in control of my body, not being very observant of everything that's happening. And I died in my dream. Do I think I would have died in real life? Probably not, but I do think it was a foreshadowing of you're going down a dangerous road. Hold on a second. But you're going down a very dangerous road. And it's the bless the broken road. Cause damn, little rascal, that booty flat. That's weird. Cause isn't a little rascal like a kid? It's weird to call a kid's ass flat. But I mean, kids are sitting down all day, so who knows? But yeah. What hurts the most? But yeah. That's the thing, There's something I feel like I need to become more in tune with things again. And part of that is become more in tune with myself. And like today's the first time in a very, very long time that I've felt this clear-headed of just comfort in terms of just in terms of feeling free, feeling disconnected from something that you're not wrapped into, and you get to actually kind of restart your life in a way. And it sounds dramatic, but it's really not. Because if you ever been just caught in a cycle, you never actually, the months and weeks, if you ever thought, man, I remember back in, someone, fill in the blank's birthday, right? And I'm like, man, that felt like it was, a month ago. And it's been 3 months. Because days and weeks just go by because you're caught in a cycle where you have no time to think. You're just caught in doing, quote unquote, what you're supposed to be doing. But what you're supposed to be doing is whatever you're supposed to be doing. But we have decided to let things dictate what we're supposed to be doing based off either approval, pressure, or just it's easier to follow certain paths because it's easier to just get gratification from just an exchange of I do this, I get that. Instead of you may do something and you're not sure what you get out of it. It's kind of a boom or bust thing, But it's really, I feel like my intuitive spirit, I know it sounds like I'm joining a cult, and maybe I'm going to create a cult. I don't know, I feel like, I literally feel like just a weight of, the weight of my balls, the weight of my hemorrhoid balls have just left my shoulders, my boulder shoulders, Oh, those farmers carries, they're really coming to hand. But, and you also realize, when you actually, I think what also really hit it for me is when you actually just, you have a day where it kind of reminds you of, how your life was a few years ago, let's just say, where you could just go out in a day, do X, Y, and Z. You feel so good when you come home, and you were just happy with that. And to see how much you veered away from that. And then in the process, you told, I will never let that become me. And then you become exactly that. I think the biggest thing is I've learned from all this is you got to accept with what comes with what matters to you. Maybe there's a temporary loss of things, but you're going to be in the place you need to be a couple years from now, compared to if you keep doing something that doesn't sit right with you. You keep doing something that makes you unhappy. You're going to be just a miserable fuck. And it's not really anyone's fault except you for continuously making a choice when you know it hasn't been right for you for the longest time. And the reason why I'm very apprehensive of getting too much detail is because it's not really a person, it's not really a place, it's not really their fault. Sometimes it's what comes with it. But you get to a point where you're just like, I can't voluntarily put myself in this environment every day when it is not how I want to live my life, is not the environment I want to be in. No one's forcing me to be here, but I continuously come here. And when you can't rationalize it anymore, it makes it where it's like you become at peace. You become at peace with a lot of things. And you always appreciate things, but at the same time, you always kind of need to, you can't just stay attached to something because of appreciation or what it has done for you. Because at the same time, you'll be gotten rid of in a second, and that's okay. I think for me, I really just need to change, Not my personality. I really need to live a little. And when you've been caught in a cycle of just living for appeasement, you kind of forget to appease yourself. Damn, that was a bar. I'm not going to lie, that was pretty good. And I don't know, I think change, and you got to start that process immediately. Not, you plan the change too much. Then you start, over time, you'll rationalize not following through with it. So I basically just made the decision of it's time. And I made the decision. And starting tomorrow, I'm going to get a lot of things. I'm going to look like a different person. I'm going to be a different mindset, different mentality. Some parts, because I think some of the things is, there's old parts of yourself that you have veered away from, that that's actually what's going to make the best version of you, and that you have veered away from it. So if you're veering away from the best versions, what are you turning into? A lesser version of yourself. And I know the thing that made me have hope in this life, that maybe have potential to be great. And I've allowed myself to get in situations where self-sabotage and where I've ignored and veered away from things because of a reward of X, Y, and Z for a period of time. And I think maybe I need to find something. I need to find a deeper meaning of what's important to me. And I don't know what that means. But there's been a lot of weird, odd feelings of just anger and disgust and aggravation. And when you can't pinpoint the direct response, you got to really look at yourself and make tough decisions. You want to do everything the right way at the right timing, but I was listening to something earlier, right? And the beautiful thing about, we always talk about timing with things. It's like in America. In America, the biggest thing is, we want to have kids at the right timing. When we're financially stable, or when we've lived a certain amount of life, and then we want to settle down. The reality is there's no such thing as having kids at the right time. As a person made, the poorest countries in the world have the most kids. Because being a good parent, for example, is not necessarily about the resources that you can make available. It is how resourceful you are at making yourself available to find the resources. If that makes sense, your will to want to make things better. It matters more than someone who can just afford things to make life better. Because when you can afford things, you never have to learn how to do shit, Like, you actually have to seek that out. Now, when you can't afford shit, you basically either have to do it yourself or not have it, But the poorest countries have the most kids, right? Families, typically the poorest countries have the biggest families. 8, 9 kids in a single household type of thing. Like, that's really normal. Only here do we have like such a privilege in a way where we can, women are much more affluential. Women are almost making, or at, I think it's like 60%. Like it used to be 60% of graduates are men, 40 are women. Now it's flipped. 60 are women, women are moving up. Guys are viewed economically less viable. And it has changed a lot of dynamics. It has changed trajectory. It has changed what we deem to be economically respectable between men and women, for example. It's a weird subject, not because of anything in my personal life, but it's a weird subject because when we make decisions, everything is revolved around economics. We always think about, if X, Y, and Z, what is the economic ramifications? And, it's obviously something you got to think about. But as this person was explaining, he's a very rich man. Like, he's an investor, Wall Street. He has all this, like, hundreds of $1 million net worth. He said, every time I make X amount of money in a month, all I think about is, all right, what can I do to make more the next month? Oh, when I think about, making a trade, I think about, how can I get the most profit? Blah, blah, blah. Everything is just about the next, making more, making better moves, have a better investment, more and more and more, right? He said the only time in his life where he has felt like things are just enough is when he is... And his scenario was, he was watching Formula One racing. His kids came in and they put their legs on him and they were just going around kind of annoying him, but in a loving way. And he said, in those moments, the only time in my life where I felt this right here is enough was involved his kids, right, when they were young. And this isn't about kids or nothing like that, but the point is only things that make you feel worthwhile are going to be the things that make life feel enough. And typically, and another thing, it's weird how, like, you listen to a bunch of things in it, you take what you want from it, but somehow it connects. And I was listening to Rick Rubin about something. Talking about something completely different. Like, they were talking about creativity and all this stuff. Kind of this, like, stuff that, I don't know, like, it's not really my alley, but, I like listening to different things now. I try to expand my vocab. I try to expand my library of what I listen to. And, I forgot what I was going with that, but he was basically explaining, God damn it, what the fuck was I talking about? Vocab, god damn it. But yeah. Oh. It was like the way you connect with all that is, I guess, just being present. Oh, it's doing things. It's like typically when you make the way everyone wins, right? Whether it's a relationship or an environment, a group, a work group, or whatever, is if your intention of doing the thing is focused on making the thing as good as possible, and everything else will take care of itself, right? The quality of what you're doing, the quality of your relations, the quality of, in his example, the songs, the beats, the instrumentals, the lyrics, at the quality of what you are putting together. Everyone is going to make their piece of the pie. The artist is going to make their money, the producer, the label. Everyone wins, right? When you start trying to dictate, how do we maximize sales? How do we do this? You know, what type of instrumentals are going to be made? What kind of, like, you're going to make something, but it might deteriorate the artist's perception of how serious people take them. They start making a lot of BS music, you know, kind of like Hello Miss Johnson by Jack Harlow. Not really a big fan of the song, gotta admit, but it is what it is. But when you focus on the quality in actually doing the thing, it really kind of takes care of everything for you. Reason why I go on about this, right? If you're waking up every day, sure, you can go to your job, do it well, and do what you're supposed to do, for example. But if you wake up and you go and you don't really, you're not really committed to it, you're not really inspired by it, you're not really like engaged with what you're doing, it's kind of like you're just getting by. Like if you're just going to do something, but you're not really in tune or really have a passion for what you're doing, like there's a shelf life to that. It's not sustainable. We are designed to do things that we enjoy doing. We all know we got to do things that suck at time, but if you aren't even intrigued by what you're doing, like you may not be good at something, but you're still intrigued by something, that makes it fun. That makes it interesting. But it's almost like when you are such in a vacuum of something, like in a black hole, and then you just get a few hours outside of that black hole, and you get to kind of just see the world. You get the smell, the nasty ass people out here, you get to go around and smell people that don't wash their coochie, It's like, damn, I was walking here to get some, just over here to pump my gas, and then you go inside to pay, and then you're waiting behind someone in line, and they're wearing some questionable yoga pants, and they're buying menthols, and then you're like, I could smell your rabid coochie. Jesus Christ, Some guys smell like sweaty balls. Some girls smell like rabid coochie, Even a skunk would walk by and play dead, Oh, God. I'm sorry. Not shitting on the nasty coochies out here, We've all been there. But yeah. I forgot where I was going with that. I guess the point is when you get a minute to step outside of that vortex, you're really just like, this is what life's supposed to be. Not just this. Like this. Time to think. Time to actually have a reason for why you're doing something. To actually know why you're doing something. To have a feeling of intrigue of why you're doing something. That's what I think is the purity of change. Is in order to change, I mean, look, you can go to the gym all the time. You can completely make drastic life changes, like I'm going to eat better, go to the gym. I'm going to go get a new style. I'm going to change clothes. I'm going to get a cool haircut. I'm going to go out to more social clubs. I'm going to be different, You can do all that stuff. And then nothing really changes. It's still the same asshole with a negative point of view, except now you're just going to different settings, bringing that negative asshole shit, And you did the physical change, but you didn't actually really think about why you did the changes. You just did the changes. You want to have that combination of action and intention. Intention and action lead to direction. Directionless action leads to lack of intention. God damn, Clint, look at you, motherfucker. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds good. Sometimes you say some bullshit sayings, and then you're like, that actually makes sense. I don't know what it means in the moment, but when I think about it, like, that sounds about right. But, yeah, I think just getting back, I'll say, for a long hiatus, I felt pretty on point, which is pretty good for me. Today's sponsor, Dunkin'. Some things never change. And shout out to the hat. Haven't worn it in quite a while, but the lovely lady deserves more pub, as they say. But, maybe I'll travel to a pub, Not a big beer guy. I don't think drinking chugs of beer is really intriguing. Something you gotta be careful, though, when you start having time is not to enjoy yourself too much, You gotta still have some type of work you're doing, but just kind of work on your terms, There's some terms and conditions to your own terms and conditions. But yeah. But you know what? I think I'll probably wrap it up there. I don't want to ramble on too much. It's already been 43 minutes. And I want to kind of get this episode out of the way. So after this, we can kind of get back to normal programming. And I could be sharper than my toenails. Because, boy, I'll scratch your calf up. Holy cow. But yeah. I guess the moral of all this is it's going to be a lot of change, I didn't need to wait till the new year to make change. It's happening. And I'm very excited. I'm intrigued. I'm free. And hopefully my dreams involve me not busting my head open anymore. So yeah. And getting back to squatting. Trying to get these lower legs back in play. Without the lower legs, you're going to be walking around like you're carrying kegs. But yeah. All right. That is episode 307 of the Off Beat Podcast with Clint Nelson. I'm your host, Clint Nelson. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, most important ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to suck some titties. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Have a great day, morning, night, evening, and yeah. Next episode might be some visual changes. All right. Adios.